Okay.
Well, welcome everybody back to the After Dark show. I'm Don Rogers. I'm really happy to have back one of a very interesting guest that I've actually had on a couple other times. And if you've missed those episodes, you absolutely need to go back and watch those, listen to them, because who I'm talking about is Rainetta Jones, and we had some amazing episodes. She was actually my second guest on the After Dark show, and we talked about how the system makes Manchurian candidates, and that one actually had oh, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Shoot,
Big
Big
Ace.
Ace. Yes, and then the second one was about time dilation, and my partner Canadian Spinja actually popped in and joined us. So both of those were amazing episodes, and just an absolute pleasure because she always makes me think. Um, and that's how this all started. On August 29th, Renata posted something that made me think about something you don't often think about. Those of us in the spiritual and truther community are aware of energy vampires. And when we think of this, we often think of like the archons and the aliens and the transdimensionals that are messing with us, and there's not a damn thing we can do about it. But what she was talking about was energy vampires within the truther and spiritual community and our day to day lives itself. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have you back, Rainetta, and thank you. And if you want to get right into this and like what
Yeah.
brought this to light for you, what made, because some of the points you made were so poignant.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me back on. I really appreciate it. Um, it was just it was just dealing with the same type of energy over and over and over again. And what I realized is this, like the great awakening has been hijacked, and it's been hijacked and steered back into the system. And the way it was done was really crafty. And it was steered back into the system using religion. And, there's a lot of well meaning people in religion really trying to, have people live moral lives, which is great, right? Because we want a society where people have moral restraints, right? However, religion itself, a big portion of religion is built around vampirism, okay, and cannibalism. And when I say vampirism and cannibalism, I mean it in the spiritual sense where people are used, their physical labor is cannibalized on, and their spirituality is vampirized, okay? One of the ways in which they codified this is by in including into religion something that I don't believe was ever said by the man Jesus, which was eat my flesh and drink my blood. I don't ever believe that Jesus said that. I believe that this came from the archons, and this came from the nefarious groups who practice these things and have been practicing these things for thousands of years. There is no way that the man called Jesus would ever say, eat my flesh, when the gods of in that region at that time was doing that, and they were violently opposed to that kind of behavior. There is no way that the man Jesus would ever say, drink my blood, when the people at that time were practicing that kind of behavior. So why would Jesus include that as a rite of passage in remembrance of him? So that's one of the older forms of vampirism and cannibalism we know in antiquity, right? So personally, what I've noticed was a pattern of behavior in the spiritual community, right? Specific patterns of behavior, and I noticed that the men notice this with women, and women, I noticed this with men, and a lot of people who are waking up, and we're glad that people are waking up, right? But the spiritual movement, the Great Awakening, has been hijacked, and it was hijacked by the religious right. Okay, the crazy left, the loony left, wants nothing to do with spirituality. Okay. They, well, moral spirituality. Okay. They want a specific kind of spirituality where anything goes and you can't have a society built on that, right? But I'm talking about this religious radical right, okay, that believe the only God is their God. Okay. The only book is their book. The only knowledge is what they know or what they've been told. And then there's fringe groups who are spiritual. But what I've noticed from the radical right and from the fringe groups is this. This is what I noticed. Number one, they never do the inner work. There is no way, there is no way you are waking up and you're not dealing with your demons. There is no way you are part of the Great Awakening and you are not dealing with your demons. There is no way you are part of the Great Awakening and you are not purifying your insides. So, what I noticed in this community is a series, like a specific set of behavior. Number one, I've noticed with the men is that the men want a harem. That is what they want. They want a harem of women that worship them and that they can use spiritually, and they want to enter the women sexually. It's imperative that they enter the woman sexually, okay? Because once they know, these men who claim to be awake spiritually, who are vampires and cannibals, they want their penis inside of the woman and they want it for a specific reason. Once their penis goes inside of the woman, women don't realize that that man becomes a part of you forever, ever, 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 ever. Amen. Unless you purify him out of you. And number two, what I notice about these men is that they want their penises in multiple women. That tells me, and when I say that, they don't want to marry the women. No, they just want to be sexually inside of multiple women as a form of control. Okay? And they know because they're occultists. They know once their penis goes into multiple women, the women don't realize this, that they are now part of the woman and can control the woman's brain. Okay? So that's one of the first things I've noticed about the energy vampirism. And this is vampiric in a sense that's in this community. Okay. And these men claim to be truthers. They're not number one, you're not a truther and you're not awakening if the same behavior before you were awake, the same destructive behavior, patterns of behavior that you're practicing when you were asleep, you're practicing when you're awake. No, you're given a grace period. But if you're still practicing those behaviors with no self restraint, you're not awake. You're looking for a harem. And it's vampiric. Go ahead. So that's one. Go ahead.
And you've actually touched on some really good points there, because one of the things I wanted to bring up is,
Um,
everybody has the possibility of being an energy vampire in some form or another, right? We can all do it, and we probably all have done it in some way, right? But when it comes to the spiritual community, like you were saying, it's the ones who don't do the work, but it's also the ones who do some of it and then stop, and they're like, "Hey, I'm great now. It's fine. I would never," but they can't reflect on it because vampires, right? So there are those who get to that, like, truly conscious, and there's two streets to this too. Like, there's the people who are unconscious of what being vampiric, and there's those that are conscious, like what you're talking about. And there's subsections of even that where, like, you just get to a point and, like, no, I'm great. I don't need to do my shadow work anymore. I'm freaking awesome, right? So
that's a great point. I'd like to elaborate on what I see with that. I tell you this, like I have graduated. I'm just telling you for me, right? I've graduated to a level I never thought I would have been from where I started, right? Um, and the first level of my awakening was I had to go in and clean up my insides. I had to go in and I had to clean up my maternal, the insides, because they're in me. All the females, women are born with all the eggs they will ever have. So if women are not doing maternal cleansing, spiritual maternal cleansing, no, you're carrying literally all of the females' bondage from all of eternity because you are born with all of the eggs. They don't regenerate. That's it, right? So the first thing I did was I had to do the internal cleaning for myself. I had to do it for my mother, my grandmother, and then I had to do it for all the females. Then I did it. I'm not a man, I don't have a penis, but I did it for the male sides as well. And the reason why I did that is because, and I did it, and I renounced things that I know that people in my family didn't do, lie, cheat, steal, rob, murder. Why? Because you have a million ancestors that came before you. You don't know who did, and you don't know. And there's something called epigenetics, just like we live in a matrix, right? We live in a matrix where souls are recycled, whether you like it or not. And that's breaking because we're in the apocalypsos. The apocalypsos is not the four horsemen of the apocalypse. No, that's the script they want you to follow. The real apocalypsos is the unveiling of what controls the matrix and the lies that's holding it together, right? And one of the major parts of the matrix is the recycling of souls, where souls don't ascend. Okay, so I know I wanted to ascend, and in order for me to ascend, I had to be light. How do you become light? You have to clean up the garbage inside. So I did it for me, and I did it for, a really long time, right? So I graduated now, and now I'm in the ancient history that's written in the mountains. It's in the rocks. And, as Jesus said, he who has eyes to see, let them see. If you can't see it, you don't have eyes to see. It's that simple. But what I've noticed is this. Number one, they don't do the inner work. And the inner work is not yesterday. I was cleaning up junk. 10 years later, I was cleaning up junk. 10 years later, I was purifying junk that was not necessarily junk that I did, but junk that was 1,000 years, 2,000 years. I didn't come here yesterday. They have been recycling souls. There's an ancient computer in Texas, on the border in Texas. I just went to go see the ancient computers. There's another one in New Mexico. The one in New Mexico got broken up. The one in Texas is deactivated. On that ancient computer, you see on that ancient computer, that is 130 million years, you see the Pope. How the hell they knew there was a Pope 130 million years ago? You see the Knights of the Round Table, Guinevere, and what's his name? King Arthur. How the hell does a mountain 130 years ago have Guinevere and King Arthur? You see the Olmecs. We don't even know how old the Olmecs are. But how the hell is it in a mountain on the border of Texas and Mexico? Because it's an ancient pyramid. And one of the questions I was asked was, Rainetta, how old is this matrix? And I said, from the looks of things, I said, if this is 130 million years ago, they've been recycling us 130 million years. No, you will never arrive. You will never arrive. The day you start purifying yourself is the day you have officially stopped ascending. You will never arrive until you ascend, which is the apocalypsos, until you ascend off this planet. And that is why it's a continuous purification, a continuous of making your spirit light. Go ahead.
Um, I wanted to ask there, you're talking about clearing and purification. Do you mean that on like the biological sense or the astral or both? Right? Because I think that's something a lot of people don't understand. Like me, I just clicked into all of this about a year ago. So this is all new to me. This is like public education for me.
Yeah, and before we hang up, we can walk through. I can walk through you guys like a 5 minute purification, and you'll see the difference. Now, the purification started first. I started purifying the mind, the body, and the spirit, the parts of the body that you can't touch, because that's the ones that affect you the most, because that's the ones that the archons or the spider race attacks. Okay. After that, then I graduated to they attacked when I started doing the spiritual work to get to clean up me, parents, and ancestor. Oh my God, when I tell you I was attacked. And that's when I had to learn that you don't just go clean up spiritually. You think these creatures are gonna just let you go that's been feeding off of the human race for billions of years? No way. They come back and they attack you physically. That's when I learned that you got to clean your colon. You got to clean your gut. You have to clean your blood. Don't let anybody tell you don't clean your blood, especially religious people who think that herbs are demonic. I mean, seriously. I'm like, King David said, wash me with hyssop and I'll be white as snow. Hyssop is an herb that they use for cleansing, right? So don't tell me that you don't purify. Okay, like, go read about the purification rituals in the Old Testament. Before you came to see God, you had to wash yourself. You gotta, you can't go see God menstruating. The purification rituals are there. So don't tell me you don't purify your body spiritually and physically. So what I learned was I started doing the spiritual purifications, and then the archons, the spider, I call it the unholy trinity. When I was out in the mountains, I was given a revelation that there's an unholy trinity, and I'm going to drop it here first, that is running the planet. The unholy trinity is a spider at the top, and then the two at the bottom, left and right of the pyramid, is the cannibal and the vampire. The cannibal is the werewolf. The vampire is the drink my blood. Okay. So the vampire is the one who consumes the blood, the cannibal is the one who consumes the flesh, and then the spider is at the top controlling the both of them. That is the unholy trinity, unfortunately, that governs this planet. And the spider is the one who casts the web. So the great archon is the one who casts the web and then uses the cannibal and the vampire to capture people. So the systems are literally designed as a web. And then under that web, the two groups that are used to bring the people in and trap them for the spider and then drain them are the cannibals, which is the werewolves, and then the vampires, which is the bloodsuckers. Okay. So I learned the hard way that when you begin to purify yourself, you don't just purify yourself spiritually, you have to be purifying yourself spiritually. And that's, you're cleaning your gut, you're cleaning your colon, you're cleaning your blood. And there are herbs and stuff you can take for that. So great question. Yeah, you have to do it back to back. Mm-hmm.
Spinge is she's actually at her spinning wheel in the background. And she said when you were talking about the vampire and the werewolf under the spider, that's kind of like the two-party system of the government, isn't it? We all know there's somebody running the two parties in the puppet show, but then when you break it down, it's just these two parties. Well, there's actually something up here.
That's exactly how this system is designed. So it's designed with a head, and most people don't realize the head of this thing is a spider. But the base of this thing is one that they either consume via the flesh or consume via the blood. And it's interesting because when you listen to these high level, one of these people you should listen to, although you should be very careful when you listen to him. Don't necessarily accept everything he tells you, but some of the secrets he lets you know. He said when he got to the highest levels of Emery, right? When he got to the highest levels, he said they gave him a choice. They said, you have three options. And he's like, what's those three options? He said, you have three options to transform. Meaning when you get to a certain level where you're no longer human, they claim that you're God. These are one of the three gods they give you. You have a choice to be a werewolf, a choice to be a vampire, or a choice to be a spider. Meaning you either shapeshift into a werewolf, that is one who consumes the flesh of humans. You either shapeshift into a vampire, one who consumes the blood of humans. Or the third one is a spider, the one who consumes everything. You liquefy both the flesh and the blood. The blood is already liquid, and then you drain the entity. And it's all of this is geared towards one specific group you're attacking. and that's humans. And when you understand that at the highest levels of Masonry, that the unholy trinity is spider, werewolf, and vampire, all the crimes begin to make sense. Let me say that again. All the crimes begin to make sense. The crimes are not skin color based. You're dealing with creatures. Okay, and this is where we see, and this is what is infiltrating. I mean, by the droves, it's infiltrating the truther community. Okay, by the droves. Go ahead.
You actually made me think about something else there for a second, and I'm just going to throw this in. It's kind of my ADD kicking in and squirrel. You made me start noticing things around my community that did not fit, right? There has been an uptick in things that don't belong in our community that have been disappearing from my community. I won't say where, but in Calgary, there used to be a black cube cemented into the ground. It is now just bushes and trees. There was a children's playground that was a giant spider web that is now just a lawn. These things are disappearing in my reality, and I'm noticing.
So get this, my high school on 66th Street had a black cube. And the black cube, it was cybernetic on the left eye, and then the left tooth, this one. I'm cybernated on the left eye all the way down, and this tooth. And this tooth on the black cube was the one with the chip, and this tooth is the one they put the chip in me. And that black cube was 66th Street at my high school. So for people who think that this is not a cube, a matrix, which is a cube that they play, a cube that they spin, what you call your ballot box. Your ballot box is a cube. There is no way you will find freedom at the ballot box. It's a cube. The cube is used to trap souls. Anyway, let me just leave that be. But so, you know, they just zapped my brain, right? So when you understand, so you had both the cube and the spot. Wow. So all the kids, and how long was it there? And how long was it there?
The playground looked like it had been there for years, and it the black cube was placed at 6 and 6 in a city very I live.
Oh, just like mine. Mine is 6. Yeah, just like mine. So they were.
I'm not going to say that.
No, don't say. Just like my high school. My high school, the black cube was 66th Street.
Yeah, so this was at 6 and 6.
I'm going to tell you what they were using the children for. Exactly what they were using me for. This is an NSA program where they were looking for specific bloodlines. I don't know what bloodline they were using you guys for, but I do know it's an NSA program. They were looking for specific bloodlines, and it's related to the Stargate program. And I believe the undersea program. Okay. So you had the black cube on 6 and 6. My high school, the black cube is 66. And it ran all the way across New York City, straight to Epstein's mansion, Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. Okay, so Calgary, you know what Calgary would be? Calgary would be Peter Nygaard.
Yeah. Yep.
That's Calgary. Calgary would be Peter Nygaard. Yeah.
That's crazy because you're in the neighborhood. You're in the neighborhood of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so that means you guys had a similar program where you were, and this is what I try, this is another thing that's going on in this truther community. Yeah, I'm going to get a little bit colorful here. I'm going to use color as an example, okay? Okay. I noticed that, okay, if a black person commits a crime, everyone says it's black people. They don't say, okay, some black people are bad, some black people are good. They just say black people. But I noticed when people begin to break down this system and they see this group that's behind the curtain doing all this shit, causing all this division, that's when all of a sudden they go, no, it's not them. So I'm like, wait, hold on. If black people commit crimes, you guys say it's black people. But when you see this group commits crimes, all of a sudden it's not them. So, like, are you guys dyslexic or something? So this is what I'm noticing in this community as well, right? People are not honest and they're doing everything to defend the group of people that's causing this chaos. And this group uses a black cube.
And
Okay.
that actually kind of ties into the vampirism too, because one of the main characteristics of energy vampires is living in constant chaos, because that's
Yes.
what they feed off. Because there's constant drama, there's turmoil, there's something that you need to put energy into and you can't control it, so they create it so they can feed off it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I wrote like 9 things here, and I'm going to read some of them, okay? One of the things I noticed about these vampires, right? And I'm going to go into the unholy trinity so that people understand how I broke down the spider for many years, how the spider operates, right? I started getting into the vampire and I began to teach people about this vampire race that's like responsible for these missing people, responsible for bloody crimes. Whenever you see a crime that's bloody, understand it's the vampires, okay? But there's a third group that's the werewolf, and the werewolf is the one that consumes the flesh. This is why I tell people there is nowhere on God's green earth this character Jesus is going to tell you, eat my flesh and drink my blood, because Jesus is going to be saying, I'm practicing Cain and Abel, which is cannibal, which is cannibal. Okay, there's no way. There's just no way. But one of the things I noticed about this triad, this unholy trinity, is that they tell you love your enemy. No, 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 no. That is wasting energy. That is why I believe Jesus never said love your enemy. You do not give energy to energy vampires. No, what you do is you starve them of energy. You don't give vampires and cannibals and werewolves energy. They will consume you and destroy you. So, one of the things I noticed about these vampires and the cannibals is that they love to tell you love your enemies. Now, here's what I noticed about them too. They never tell the people who who practice the wickedness against you, they never tell them, hey, stop doing that. No, they come to you, the victim, and demand you, the victim, give your enemy even more energy. Go for it.
And on that note, something else that I picked up, and a lot of this I will give credit. I watched Sarah Alcalde, and I will post her links because she has some stuff on this too. Is the people exactly what you're saying that can't take a compliment as well? They have to like magnify it and make themselves seem even more wonderful. And you're a piece of crap. And did you see the great work I did? Did you hear he paid me a compliment? It gets ego driven, and you can pick up these people fairly quickly, because as soon as you give them an innocent compliment, they turn into an egomaniac and they can't stop themselves. And that's one of the things to watch for as well.
That could be, childhood trauma, undealt with trauma, like someone, like they had no attention or was given any attention in their childhood. It could be dealing with ego, and when people are, and don't get me wrong, everyone moves in their ego. Like, if you work, you have to work in your ego, because that's how you get your work done. Like, ego is there for a reason, but ego is not there to beat your next door neighbor over your head, or to beat your comrade at work. Wrong word, because we're run by communists. But like your coworker. Ego is not there to beat your coworker over the head to make them, hey, I'm better than you. They're not there. Ego is not there for you to beat someone else over the head to make yourself feel special. No, ego is there for you to get shit done. Ego is a driving force. Like, you have a project to get done. Your ego will help you to get the project done to the best of your ability. So it's there for a reason. Now, misplaced ego or displaced ego, which is what's running this planet, is where you get into the realm of vampires and cannibals. You follow it? So with this person, it could be undealt with trauma, that the person is not doing their inner work in order for them to have proper social relationships, or you're dealing with a vampire, or you're dealing with a cannibal, someone who will cannibalize your energy, someone who will cannibalize your words. You know what I mean? So yes, that could be an example, but it all depends on, is this person dealing with a childhood trauma, or is this person literally walking in full-blown unrestricted ego? If as an adult they're walking with misplaced or displaced ego, no, you're dealing with one of these entities. And you're going to have a hell of a time getting anything done with them, because you're going to be confronted by this monstrous ego that's like a wall that you can't get across. Yeah, go for it.
And it actually makes sense because you're talking about the ego, and one of the things to do with the ego is the shadow work, and it just makes sense that where are the vampires? Sitting in the ego in the shadows because you refuse to do the work.
Yeah, and this is why vampires and werewolves live in the shadow. That's where they lurk. That's where they stalk. They don't come into the light until they're on top of you. So this is why it's important. I always say to people, when you're dealing with people, you got to know, hey, are these people dealing? Are these people going in and doing, and digging up the garbage that's inside of them and getting it out? And I'm going to be honest with you. I keep encountering. I just got so sick and tired of this shit. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I can't deal with this shit anymore. I'm sick and tired of people in their ego. People don't want to share, they don't want to work together. It's always this ego and that ego, and don't you know this and this and that. And most importantly, I'm sick and tired of all of the men who are seeing all of these women, because men follow women. They're seeing all of these women who are gravitating away from religion into spirituality, and they're seeing all these women as weak and stupid and easy to game. And easy to get over. Okay, like seriously. And I know for the men who are truly trying to do the work, they're encountering women as well. So one of the second thing so the first thing you will notice about the energy vampires is they always want to displace your love. Let me explain the rightful use of love. The rightful place to put love is not into an enemy. Okay, loving your enemy is a setup. It was put there into the book by vampires. You will never get fruit back from loving someone who hates you. The rightful place to put love is into ground that will bear fruit. Okay, why would you give love to a carcass that's on the side of the road? Now, you can show pity. You could bury the carcass. You could show the animal respect. You could bury the carcass. But the life force in the animal is already gone. You're following what I'm showing you? So the right place to put love is into something that you know where life will come out of. And that is not an enemy. The human race have been worshiping the people at the entities at the top of this pyramid. They go and they buy Forbes magazine with the world's richest people, mocking all of us poor people, telling us about how rich they are. These rich people, not all rich people, but I'm talking about the ones all the way at the top, they take our money, and now they are taking our money and killing us. Now, let me ask you, should we love these people? Or should we be taking that love and showing it to our neighbors? This is what I mean when I say you do not take love and give it to an enemy. You're wasting it. Even Jesus said you don't throw pearls to swine. Love is pearls, and you don't throw pearls to swine. So the second thing I notice about these vampires in the truther community is they love to disarm you. They love to disarm you. One of the ways they disarm you is they always tell you it's not this enemy that your spirit is telling you, It's that one over there. They love telling you what your eyes see is not true. Okay? So the vampires and the werewolves and the spider will always tell you what you're seeing is not what you're seeing. The person who's the groups that are harming you are not harming you. It's them over there. Let me show you what I mean. For 30 years, we have heard that the Muslims are terrorists. I'm going to use this as an example. For 30 years, I am not saying that Muslim people don't have their problems. I am not saying that some of them are not causing problems in Europe with the rape gangs. I am not saying that. I am talking about the 1.5 billion Muslims. They have lied to the people in the West, especially the United States American Christians, telling them that they are terrorists. When I asked them, I said, let me ask you a question. Name one country the Muslims have bombed in the last 30 years. Name one. They can't tell you. I said, but I thought you said they were terrorists. So how can they be terrorists and not dropping bombs? This is what I mean when I tell you that what they do is they tell you, they disarm you by telling you, look over here. Your enemy is not there. Your enemy are not the people in front of you trying to kill you. Your enemy is somewhere over the seas. And that's a second way I noticed the vampires in this community, the vampires and the werewolves. Those who seek to drink your blood and eat your flesh are disarming the truther community. Go ahead.
And something that kind of goes hand in hand with that is like online spiritual trolls, like somebody that'll just argue with anybody about a spiritual topic just to get the energy, just to get that argument, just to get that hit, right? They come off as this sanctimonious, I'm here to heal the world, but all they do is bitch and chew and argue with other people about spiritual subjects that it's really just something to fight about.
Yeah, absolutely. And they, a true, a true spiritual person, there comes a point in time when a true spiritual person is done arguing and they're like, okay, we fix this. But a vampire will never stop arguing. At the moment you get a 2 seconds of rest, they're back with another fight. A vampire cannot rest. A werewolf cannot rest until they hunt. A vampire cannot rest until they drink blood. And the end is always leading to bloodshed. Anyone that's telling you, let me tell you, one of the vampire werewolf strategy in the United States of America, in Canada, Europe, Africa, that is in the truther community. These fake truthers, they tell you the migrants are the problem. The migrants. I go, yeah, fine, the migrants. But then I asked them, I said, let me ask you a question. Would you leave your country 3,000 miles to go to another country where you don't know anyone? No. What is making them leave their country by the millions? They get quiet. You know why? Because they know it's their government doing it. You get it? This is what I mean when I say that this truther community is filled with people who want you to shed your blood so your flesh can be consumed. A fear person, a person who is fear, will say, why are all these migrants going to Europe? First of all, 80% of the migrants die in the Mediterranean and are organ harvested on both sides, North Africa and Europe. Let me say that again. 80% of the migrants, the African migrants, the Middle Eastern migrants, die in the Mediterranean and are organ harvested. The truther community don't tell you that. 80% of the migrants trying to get in the United States die in the Darien Pass and are organ harvested. They don't tell you that. Okay, now get this. Before they came above ground, the ones who made it into the United States and in Europe, and we have people saying this, they went straight underground, never to be seen again. Okay? This is the reality. But if you listen to these truthers, if you listen to these truthers, all you hear is the migrants are the problem. But let me ask you a question. What is your government and your corporations doing in their countries? Number one. Number two, let's get to right here. These truthers are telling you the only thing to save us is the military. No, the military's mandate is to kill. Something whose mission is to kill is not there to save. Okay? So anyone who's telling you that the military is going to save you is leading you to the third point of a vampire, a system generated savior. Nothing the system gives you is designed to save you. The system is there to keep you under control and at this point in time, exterminate you. So there's no way the system is going to save you when its plans are clearly to exterminate you at the same time. You're dealing with vampires, you're dealing with werewolves, you're dealing with people who are there to consume your flesh and drink your blood. Now, here's the other thing. These truthers keep telling their population who listen to them there's going to be a civil war. Instead of telling their population there will not be a civil war, because what we're going to do is we're going to disengage from the system who's been abusing us, black, white. Let me show you how they abuse the whites. They abuse the whites with sterility and suicide and drug abuse. They abuse the blacks with prison, labeling all black people. You're a black doctor, you're a criminal. You're a black psychiatrist, you're a criminal. You're a black scientist, you're a criminal. You're a black police officer, you're a criminal. So the system abuses the white race with drugs, okay? They abuses the white race with porn, kidnapping young white girls and turning them into porn stars and destroying the white females. The system destroys the white race with infertility. Okay, the birth rates of the white race is near zero. Okay, that's system generated. That is how they kill white people. The same system killed black people. They kill black people with bad health care. They go into the hospital, they kill black people and run away with their organs. They kill black people by labeling all of them using the media, movies, and music criminals. So black people like myself, I go into a store, I get followed around. This is system created. They kill black people by prison. They kill them by driving them insane and hitting them with weapons. The weapons are on, the directed energy weapons are on in black communities, hot. Don't get me started about Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. The weapons are on hot in the black community. That is how they kill blacks. They kill the Native Americans by disappearing them, murdering them, and saying they have a suicide rate and pumping them still 400 years later with alcohol. They kill the Latinos with diabetes and sugar. So when I hear these people say they're coming to kill the white race, I said, you people are full of shit. They are killing us all. But they are killing us differently. So this is one of the ways in which those whose job it is to stir up race wars, which is so the vampires and the cannibals can feed. This is how they do it. They do not tell the people fear and balance. Look, the reason why the Latinos in Latin America are coming across the border in droves is because our intelligence communities are overthrowing their governments and our corporations are running them off their land. They don't tell the people the reason why there are so many African migrants is because Africa never truly had independence. There's still a colonial project under the United States, Great Britain, and the European Union, and now China. And parts of Africa is under the Vatican, the Catholic Vatican, and the other half is under Mecca, Islam. They don't have freedom. And they cannot control And the other portion is controlled by France, who runs away with 90% of the country's resources in 26 African countries. And the French corporation, British corporation, European Union, and the United States, American corporations are in there enslaving the people and then running them off of resource rich lands into Europe and the United States. This is the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground is this: they want to make whites, blacks, Asians, everybody landless and stateless. But when you listen to the vampires and the werewolves, they will tell you they're only coming to kill the white race. This is bullshit. They're there to cause race wars. Got it.
I actually have something on that too, and we won't even go down the entomology rabbit hole, what I'm about to say. But here in Canada, our prime minister's first few major acts, and you could pick up what I'm talking about. Prime minister, right? That's who runs our country, is a minister. His first two major acts were to legalize weed and bring in immigrants by the plane load. Guess what? My wife works with a multicultural group of people. Almost 90% of the new Canadians have health problems. Surprise! You came here, you're being poisoned. Welcome to the country.
And they're being brought to be killed. That's another thing. Because as long as they're alive, when they run them off the land, people still don't realize, and the Africans have been screaming, the people in Latin America are screaming, listen, they're running us off our lands, and they're running them into the United States, and then they kill it. They're dropping dead of diabetes because they're killing them. But they're killing whites too, and they're killing Native Americans too. If you follow Native American channels, the Native Americans, they're still killing us. By the way, notice the second word: minister. Minister. Minister is a religious title.
Our government still has ministries. The Ministry
Okay.
of Transportation, Ministry of Defense.
Thank you. These are religious terms. So no, your country is not run by a prime minister as a head of state. Your country is run by the English church. Thus, the minister and ministries.
Yeah,
and for those of you who think it's all the Vatican, the English church is as powerful as the Vatican, because all the Queen's lands come under the church, the Bishop of Canterbury. Yeah.
That's insane, and that's why I wanted to throw that out, because I figured you would know.
Yeah. You're under the ministry as well. And you're under the ministry, which is a religious term of the British church, the crown church, the kirk, the church. And all the lands that belong to the Queen is under the church. Now, if you were Catholic, all the land would be under the Vatican. And they tell the people all roads lead to Rome. No, some of the roads lead straight back to Westminster Abbey, which is both political and religious. Right? Yeah. So no, you don't have freedom, much the same as Australia doesn't have freedom, much the same as Africa never had and have not had freedom for 400 years. And much the same as Latin America. Latin America is under the Vatican. The land is owned by the Vatican. What damn freedom do they have? Canada, Australia is not owned by the indigenous in Canada, nor Australia. It's owned by the Crown, and the Crown passes the land on to the church, Westminster Abbey, which is both a political and a religious hub. Thus, the title they give their politicians is minister.
Yeah.
That is how powerful religious institutions are.
You actually hit it right on the head there, because anybody from Canada will know if it's not owned property, it's called crown land.
Yeah. And who puts the crown on the head of the monarch? The church.
Spencer just said the Bishop of Canterbury.
The Bishop of Canterbury. Okay. That's who crowns a monarch. So who is above the monarch? The monarch is not above the church. The church is above the monarch. That is who's implementing these laws. And you want to know who the church answers to? The church answers to the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is a Greek term, the Greek term for the lawyers. It is not a Hebrew term. It is actually a Greek term for the religious lawyers. If it were the Vatican, you would call the Sanhedrin the Synod of Bishops. Okay. So if you want to understand multiculturalism, the reason why they can do it is because Africa, parts of West Africa, is still Commonwealth to the crown, meaning they bow to the British, the English church. They're not bowing to the Queen, they're bowing to the English church who broke away from the Vatican. The parts of Africa that are Catholic, they are under the Synod of Bishop, which is the Vatican Sanhedrin, which came out of Greece. The Sanhedrin did not come out of Israel, it came out of Greece. That is why your Bible was translated to Greek. This is who is running. So when you want to understand, hey, wait, hold on. Much like the Native Americans who said, hey, why are these Europeans coming to our land 400 years ago, right? Now you have this drove of African and Middle Eastern migrants, and they're like, hey, shit, why are you coming to our land? Because their land is still commonwealth. Do you understand what that term means? Commonwealth. Do you know what the term common means? It means that you are not the elite, meaning if you are a group of Commonwealth countries, it means that they can move the people around like on a chessboard and you have no damn say.
That's insane.
Okay? When your land is designated Commonwealth, if they want to change the demographics from black to white, they can because it's Commonwealth. All the money is in one basket. All the land is in one basket. Commonwealth. And it is the church that is moving the pieces on the chessboard. Not the crown, the church, because it is the church who puts the crown on the king's head. It is the church where the lawyers came from. All law came from the church.
That just blew my mind. And I'm like sitting here picturing the church floors with the chessboard, and it just all kind of makes sense now.
When you walk into Westminster Abbey, what color is the floor? Black and white.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's happening? They're taking black people from black lands and running them onto white lands. That's called checkers, or it's called chess. And it's right there in Westminster Abbey on the floor. Black and white, honey. It's the church.
Jeez.
Go ahead. Your Commonwealth. Why are you shocked?
I never thought of the etymology of that phrase before. I'm just dumbfounded on that one.
The Africans don't have any choice. The Africans are under Commonwealth. If they say no, they get overthrown and bombed because their land is under Commonwealth. Not African wealth, not European wealth, Commonwealth. Europe is controlled by the Vatican. Europe is the Commonwealth of the Vatican. If the Vatican says overrun them with African migrants, we're going to say no.
Yeah.
You get bombed. You get your funding pulled. Okay? That's why the floors are black and white. You see, none of us have
That
rights in this bitch. None of us. So anyone telling you, oh, they're coming to kill whitey and they're sparing black people and they're going to replace white people, they exterminated 200 fucking million Native Americans. They exterminated 2 million Aboriginal Australians. They exterminated 200 million from Canada, America proper, Central America, South America, and turned the Americas white and black and turned it into what? Commonwealth. It ain't the first time they've done it. It's the first time you've actually paid attention.
yeah.
Yeah.
My family is particularly Irish, so I know
Oh,
there was
you know.
the Irish
Yeah.
Holocaust that nobody knows about because it didn't happen.
They've been exterminating the Irish for God knows how long. And they're still trying to. And I'm just like, Africans, don't be a part of this shit. Go home and leave the Irish people alone. The Irish people don't bother anyone. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've been doing this shit for thousands of years. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you think North Africa became white? North Africa is white. How do you think it became white? They exterminated the blacks. Okay. How do you think the Jews today are white? They exterminated the brown people and replaced them with white Jews. I mean, they've been doing this shit for years.
Yeah.
Years. But what's wrong is when people say they're exterminating the white race and deny, hey, there's an extermination going on. They're running black people off their land and killing them. They're running Latinos off the land and killing them, and they're still killing the native. They're killing all of us.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things these vampires in the truther community are put there to do. They're put there to take attention away from the fact that the system is killing all of us differently, but they're killing all of us and say, hey, listen, they're killing us and us alone. Bullshit. They're killing all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Your number 4 point was particularly interesting, and I actually have a fair bit to go on that as well.
Go for it.
What she said in her number 4 point in this was not accepting responsibility historically, spiritually, physically, past or present. Vampires never accept responsibility.
Ever. Have you seen this system apologize for those damn? Why would they apologize to food?
Yeah.
Why would they apologize to their food?
Yeah.
Okay. When someone wants to consume you, okay, when someone wants to consume your flesh or drink your blood, something I do not believe Jesus ever said to do, because Jesus would not behave like them. When someone wants to consume your flesh and drink your blood, why the hell would they apologize? This is why number 3 tells you the vampires, the werewolves, and the children of the spider always lead you back to the system. They always give you a system-generated savior. They never tell the sheep, listen, sheep, you can form groups, you can form communities, and you can help each other. And you can do so in a way that doesn't cause too much panic in the system, because you don't want the system to know you're breaking away, because then they hit you with an elongated skull called Helen. Why Helen? Because the Sanhedrin, the original place where the Sanhedrin, that is the group of doctors, they were religious lawyers who had doctorates. The word Sanhedrin was not a Hebrew word, it came from the Greeks. It was religious lawyers. The Hurricane Helen, the reason why I believe they called it Helen is because we're dealing with Hellenes. What is that? That is Hellenistic Greece. Rainetta, what are you talking about? Under the Hellenes in Greece, lesbianism, LGBTQ was the norm. It was hedonistic. It was chaos. It was um, it was licentious. Okay. And that gave rise to where you got the Sanhedrin to bring order back to the Hellen, Hellene, where you get the word, the prefix hell, hell on earth. Now, do you understand why they call that superstorm Helen?
Yeah, and Helen hit the same spot for the second time in history, but
Of
we won't
course.
we won't pull at that thread.
No, because it's called a reset. Reset, the great reset. What is re? Re means to do again. Do
Yeah.
again. And by the way, I think that whole hit is a war, but I'm not gonna say too much about that. But okay, so let's get to they never accept responsibility. Okay, number three, they lead you to a system generated savior. Why? Because they always have to trap the people back into the cube, into the box, okay, where they're trapped, right? Once they do that, they don't have to accept responsibility for shit. Okay? Once you make the decision to go back into the box, why would they apologize to you? A person who is trying to evolve is going to apologize. A person who's trying to evolve is not going to demand that if I'm trying to kill you, you love me. No, they're going to say, you're the murderer. You need to repent. You're wicked. They're not going to go to the victim and say, go love your enemies. No. You see, this is why us regular folk never win. Look at who the people in the truther community are worshiping. Elon Musk, who wants to put a brain chip in your head. Well, I got a brain chip. I am one of the first people they tested Neuralink on. And I'm here to tell you, Neuralink is slavery. And they tested on me without my consent or my knowledge. Did Elon Musk pay me when they put Neuralink in my head? No. Now you're coming to tell me Elon Musk is a savior when it's his satellites that caused Helen. And then he comes in like the savior. That's what they do. That is what vampires do. They will come in and cause the chaos and then present themselves as the savior. Did Elon Musk ask me or my friend permission when they tested Neuralink on us? But you're presenting him. No, he's a system generated savior. Okay, that's one of the saviors. The other one wears a red string of Kabbalah on his wrist. Do you know what it means when someone has that red string on their arm? That's the next one who they're saying is a truther. Okay? Do you know what that red string means? It means they're in the baby club. That's who you're presenting to me as a truther? And they all come under the guise of Christianity. Okay? This is madness. No, they never accept responsibilities. Did the person who rolled out 5G, which went with the cuckoo shots, did they ever apologize? And they're telling the people, this is your only savior. The person who rolled out the cuckoo, along with the 5G that is used to track the people who are cuckoo rated. And then they're telling you that's the only savior. They never apologize. Did that person apologize when people were dropping dead of myocarditis? When people were dropping dead of blood clots? And the truther community are telling the people that's your only savior. People, you're being led straight to people who will drink your blood and consume your flesh. They will cast a web around you. This is what the spider does. Cast a web around you, like they did to Sleet Sleet. There's a great empress, an ancient empress in my area. She has a mountain. She fought the ancient serpents that landed in this area. There's great history out here, unlike anything you've ever seen in the desert Southwest. You know what the serpents did to her? They wrapped her up in spider silk. and then had a snake come and eat her. That's what they're doing to the people who are waking up. They're wrapping them in spider silk because that's what the spider does. It casts the net, okay, so that it can trap the prey and then leave the prey for the vampires and the werewolves to consume. And that's what's happening in the truther community. And one of the ways in which they do that is they never say they're sorry. They have never apologized for that damn shot. That is how you know you're dealing with a vampire and a werewolf. Go ahead. And a spider.
Even on your day-to-day level, that can relate to other people in your lives, because people in your own life that are like a pathological liar or a remorseless liar, it's the same MO here. Like, it's the same motive. Like, somebody who will habitually lie without remorse is doing it strictly to drain you, right? They've drained it. They've brought this whole concept, the ones that you're talking about on an archetypal level, are now bleeding through to like our friends, our family, like, and it's why it's so damn draining to be around people, because you never know who's genuinely talking to you or who's trying to drain you.
Yeah, one of the things you have to look for is humility, like someone who could say, hey, I'm wrong. Oops, I'm wrong. I made a mistake. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know it all. Oh, I'm not seeing what you see, but I trust what you see so I can validate you. Anyone who can validate you, even though they may not see the way you see, anyone who's humble enough to say, you know what, I might be wrong on that one. This person was right. Or anyone who can say, this person saw this first. You're dealing with a human who is working on themselves. You understand? You have to see a work in progress. But if you see a cycle of the same damn behavior, you're dealing with an entity, because entities operate using destructive cycles. You following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is what has taken over. It's a vampiric radical right wing, and I know who's behind it. What's behind it is that Sanhedrin. I know it's the Sanhedrin that's behind it. It's the Sanhedrin that's using them and say, hey, target this movement, infiltrate this movement, and take it over and bring it under us. Okay? Because I was here when the truth movement was not involved in politics, and they were not involved in religion. And here I am today, they're involved in religion and they're involved in politics. Two of the part of the systems that have caused the most damage to the human race. The wars of the last 2,000 years has been religious wars that killed trillions of people, 200 million of which we know today are Native Americans. There were multiple wars fought in Europe to turn Europe from tribes into Christian countries. To this day, we don't know how many they killed. You think the Irish became Catholics and Protestants because they wanted to? No, they became Irish Catholics and Protestant at the barrel of a gun. Okay? They became Catholic in Europe at the edge of a sword or burnt at the stake. Islam spread not peacefully, but at the edge of a sword. Christianity spread at the edge of a sword. And behind both of these two was the Sanhedrin orchestrating it. Okay? So you're taking people back into that system that has historically killed trillions of people. The next vampiric group that has historically killed many people, because the church does not act without their puppets, and their puppets are politicians. Other politicians. The truther community are leading people back to politics. The other beast It is the politicians that locked you down. It is the politicians who said you were not essential. It is the politicians who made you lose your job. So how the fuck are they going to save you? I'm not saying become radical and just toss the government away. I said, understand that no one can be of the truth, leading you back to the very people who tried to kill you the last 4 years and have no goddamn remorse. And no, I have not heard one apology for those death shots. And I have not heard one apology for bombing these people in the Middle East or releasing bioweapons in Africa that's causing the people to run off their land. I have not heard one apology to the Canadians, the Americans, the people in Australia, and the people in Europe for forcing them to be vaccinated. And yet the truther movement is saying the very people who rolled out the quack, 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 and who locked you down are the people who are there to save you. People, you're being vampired on. You're being vampired on. And they will continue consuming you if you let them. Go ahead.
And that actually brings me into like the archetypes, because basically what you're describing is like the false parent figure, right? They come off like politicians come off like mommy, daddy, and they use this authority to manipulate you into believing. You know who doesn't cheer for you when they go home at night? Right? You know who doesn't give a shit about you when they go home at night? Yeah, it's the people that you're cheering for. I watch this in our community, like you're saying, and it's like these are some of the most brilliant minds, and then this fucking puppet show comes up, and it's like, oh, here, the eye roll exactly, because that's where my head goes. It's like this again. Oh no, we're not falling for that again. 2 weeks later, somebody shot a dumb fuck. Oh no, like really?
Energy is on the brink of being taken down, and it's by design. What they're doing is they're steering, listen to me very carefully. This is why I say I'm not a damn truther. Okay? Don't call me a truther. I'm not, no. I'm a revelator. Big difference. Okay? Because a broken clock is right twice. I am not a truther. I'm a revelator. I reveal hidden things. Okay? That is what I am. The truther community, the agents of the truther community, are put there to steer the sheep back to the system to be destroyed. Before the system comes to cannibalize the sheep that's in the truther community, what they're going to do is they're going to pretend to take down these truthers. So that way they could politely exit them stage left. And then they come in and then they classify some of them as radicals, put them in concentration camps, classify some of them as insane, put them in black sites mental institution, kill off some of them. And all the while, the people who radicalize them, who were put there to radicalize them, they're going to make it look like they're being persecuted. Like Jesus was persecuted. And the people go, the system, the reason why he's real, she's real, is because they're being persecuted. No, you're being played. You're being played. Because they run on scripts. They have brain and trained people in Europe, in Canada, in Australia, in the United States with hero programming. For the last 50 years, Hollywood movies have been bent on creating a hero with lots of guns who come in at the last minute to save the day. And they were doing that type of programming. It's a vampiric type of programming so that the people would be ready for a savior with guns blazing who would save them right before they get destroyed. Independence Day, right before they get destroyed. And Hollywood has been great with the top psychologists writing these types of scripts that you think is entertainment, but it is enter. Enter, to enter. Tain means to hold, meant is the mind. Enter and hold the mind. Entertainment with hero programming. That is why the sheep cannot see when they're using Hegelian dialectics on them. A bird has two wings. Have you ever seen a bird with one wing fly? No. A bird has two wings. It has a right wing and a left wing. No, the right is not coming to save you. No, the left is not coming to save you because it's two wings on the same damn bird. And this bird, they want to burn this bird and have it rise like a phoenix from the ashes off of your asses. The truther community is being, listen to me very carefully, those of you who are just waking up. The real truthers will never point you to religion, and they will never point you to a political savior, and they will never appoint you to a Hollywood-backed truther. You know what a real truther would do? A real truther would find someone with a voice who has 200 followers, 300 followers, telling the truth to the people, and they would give that person a voice. They're not going to give a person a voice that is coming from the system, the very system that's been trying to kill you, and then give them your voice that should have gone to regular people. Let me tell you something. The internet was supposed to be for regular people. Hollywood was supposed to be for Hollywood people. The news media was supposed to be for the establishment. YouTube was supposed to be for the regular folks. You know who gave away YouTube to the establishment? The truther community. I watched it with my own two eyes. The truther community started bringing in the Hollywood folk. And I said, this is going to go downhill. After the Hollywood folk came, you know what came? Advertisers. When advertisers came, the advertisers demanded, hey, we don't want to be on the same platform with these truthers. Get rid of them. Do something to them. So what did they do? They demonetize. The first 5 letters of demonetize spells demon. They hit them with a demon and got rid of them. They didn't unmonetize them. They demon, D-E-M-O-N, a jinn. They hit them with a jinn and they got rid of them. You know what the jinn is? The jinn is called the algorithm. That is where the jinn is in the matrix. They hit them with the demonetization because the advertisers said, we don't want to be on the same platform with these people. You know who gave away YouTube? It was the truther community that gave away YouTube because they started bringing in the Hollywood celebrities. I watched it all with my own two eyes.
Something you were just talking about there leads into another one of the archetypes that I was looking into, is this predictive programming that you're talking about with the hero that's going to come and save everybody. One of the commonly known, like, day-to-day energy vampires is the White Knight, the dude that or the lady that comes in and rescues you, and I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to do this, and we're going to be great together, and you end up slowly relying on them, and they're just feeding off of you, right? I've actually ended up in relationships like that, right?
Landlord like that,
right? It happens to the best of us, and if you're not aware, because they learn it from Hollywood and then they bring it into their home, and I'm going to be the hero and you have to rely on me, and now you're drained, and why do we hate each other? Like,
this is why, you know, like, for example, you know, okay, some people can give money, but if you know someone is giving money, you have to give equal, something of equal value. You give of your knowledge, you give of your time. You must always be in a relationship where the trade is equal and you're constantly sharing the trade between the two. Some people can give of spiritual, they can give spiritually. They may not have money. They can give spiritually. Some people can give mentally. So you always have to constantly, when you're in a relationship with people, there always has to be an equal reciprocal trade going on. If there is no equal, let me put it to you this way. How can people, I watched a lot of shit in this. I used to watch and just sit back at this truth community. And I was there when it was real. Okay. But anyway, so let's take this January 6th that they called an insurrection. Okay, first of all, bullshit. You're not overthrowing the U.S. government with no guns. I don't give a damn what skin color you are. You are not overthrowing the U.S. government in a bull's horn dressed up like a deer. You're not overthrowing the U.S. government in sneakers and jeans. So sorry, it's not happening. So that right there is bullshit. That is my humble opinion. Okay. But here's what I find interesting: the organizers. I listened to the organizers. One was a former president. The former president has something like, he's called commander in chief, meaning he's the head of the military. He's also head of the intelligence community. Am I wrong? Meaning, if there was going to be a setup, the first person who would know would be you. The second person who organized it always talk about getting intelligence of what's coming. I got intelligence there's going to be a Hamas attack on the United States. I have intelligence of the Chinese at the border. I have intelligence of secret operatives here, there, and everywhere. I said, wait, hold on. You've been saying that you've been getting intelligence from this source and that source and this source and that source for 20 years. But none of your intelligence operatives told you that the people you were inviting to Washington, D.C. on January 6th was going to set the people up. You're trying to convince me that the head of the United States, he was still the sitting president of the United States. None of his intelligence advisors told him that they were going to set up his followers that day. And you're the head of the United States? How stupid can you be? This is what I mean when I say the people are being vampirized. But you know what I realize? Some of the people like being eaten. Let me say it again. How could you be the president of the United States, commander in chief, head of the intelligence community, and head of the military? None of them told you, none of them said to you, hey, listen, your enemies in Washington, D.C. are planning to set up your followers when they come to Washington, D.C. So be very careful. Don't go close to the Capitol. Hold your rally away from the Capitol. You were the president of the United States. The first thing you get is an intelligence briefing first thing in the morning. Now let's look at the planners of the event. The planners of the event, every time they do their show, morning, noon, and night, they say to the people, I have intelligence that assets are coming over the border. I have intelligence there are Russian assets. I have intelligence there are Chinese assets. I have intelligence that they're planning on this and planning that they're going to release this and going to release that. None of your intelligence assets could have told you that they were going to set up those people on January 6th. You know why? Because they planned it. Because a bird has two wings. Let me say this again. A bird cannot fly with one wing. And America will always fly. And the fact that the symbol of the United States is the great eagle, America will not fly on one wing. America flies on two wings. And a bird cannot go in two different directions flying with two wings. A bird can only go in one direction as its two wings propel it. Do you understand what I'm telling you? If the bird is moving north, the wings are going to aim north, both the left wing and the right wing. And this is what I see in this truther community. Let me tell you something, people. Anyone who's sending you to a system generated savior is sending you there to be cannibalized and vampirized and cobwebbed. You have to wake up. You have to wake up because there is they want to plan a great culling in this United States. And the great culling are for people who are waking up. Be careful with the system and be careful with these system generated saviors and these ones who bring you knowledge. A lot of them are leading you to your death. Go ahead.
I was actually living in Bobcaygeon, Ontario when they called an entire nursing home. I think it was a total of 87 souls in all that ended up passing. It was 91% of the staff and residents of the old age home in Bobcaygeon. And I'm just going to say this because it kind of pissed me off, and I'm going on my own rant here. The Snowbirds, which is like our Blue Angels, did a friggin' tribute to all of those lost. Never came near Bobcaygeon. Not even so much as an FU. Just they called that entire nursing home as an experiment and just walked away from it. So I know you're telling the truth. I was there.
Listen, when I was in New York, I'm going to tell you what I saw in New York. Okay. I spent years in New York. New York was busy, even where I was in like a remote part of New York, right? So it wasn't as busy, but it was still busy. Okay. Now, where I lived, there were working class people and middle class people, people who did not have money to run to the South. Let me make this clear. People who did not have money to run to the southern states. I literally watched the numbers trickle in New York City, where I was literally, there were days I would be the only person on the street. That is how many they took out. The elderly in New York, they wiped out about 30,000 elderly in the nursing homes. Okay. 30,000. 30,000. And they acquitted the former governor of this. They literally put sick people into the nursing homes and wiped them out. And they said the governor did nothing wrong. Okay. I traveled to the western part of the United States. I'm not going to say where. I ended up in this small mining town. Everybody in the town was sick and dying. When I say everybody, I mean everybody. And it was a town of maybe like 1,000 people. We drove and drove and drove, and all we saw was decimation on top of decimation on top of decimation on top of decimation. Okay. The left wing, a bird cannot fly north if one wing is facing north and the other wing is facing south. These people are there telling you they are doing number, which one is this one? Hold on.
I think we're on 5.
Number two, they're using number two, where they disarm the people by telling them it's the liberals, it's the liberals, it's the liberals, it's the liberals. So you never look at what your wing of the bird is doing. I'm going to say this again. COVID was not under liberals. The quack, quack, quack was not under liberals, and I am not a liberal. I ran out of New York City because they're insane. The quack, quack, quack was not a liberal policy. The 5G to go with the quack, quack, quack was not a liberal policy. Okay? They tell you it's the liberals, it's the liberals. You know why? Because they don't want you to watch what their wing of the bird is doing. Listen to me carefully. A bird cannot fly north if one of its wings is facing south. Both wings has to face north in order for the bird to move north. America will always fly. Therefore, it requires both the left wing and the right wing of the bird for it to fly. People, be careful with this beast. Go ahead.
You just kind of like melted my brain again. I love freaking talking to you. Oh. Oh. I guess where we can go from there is number five, because I have nothing. You got me on
I
that.
watched them. I watched them wipe out New York City. I was in a working class, middle class neighborhood. These people don't have money to run to another state. I watched that where I was trickled till you saw no goddamn one. It trickled until I was in the streets. I would be day and night, and you would barely see one or two people. That is how many they took out. And I could say that with authority because that was a working class, middle class community, and they did not have the kind of money to run to another state. And it was under lockdowns. Where the fuck did all these people go? Okay, people, wake up. Wake up. Right? So, number five, this is another one that really pisses me off. Because when they look at evil being done against people being the other people, they say, you chose this. How the fuck do you know? A child being raped, people having bombs dropped on their head, they signed an agreement to come here. Where the fuck do these people get this from? People, before you spout foolishness, ask them, where did you get this information from that someone signed an agreement to come here to have a bomb dropped on their heads? That is a satanic doctrine, which goes back to number four, not accepting responsibility for injustice. They say stuff like, but you chose to come here. Where's the contract? Who told you this? Who told you this? Where did you get this knowledge from? Where did you get this authority from that tells you I chose to come here into this hellhole? I would never come here to get bombs dropped on my head, nor to see children having bombs dropped on their head, nor to see any child decimated from sexual violence. Are you crazy? So these are some of the fuck shit, excuse my language, some of the bullshit these people tell you, and people just gobble this up and repeat this shit back. Bullshit. We have to wake up to how these vampires, how these cannibalizers, and how this spider constantly spins a web around us, pulling us back to the very people who want to destroy us. And it leads to number six, deceit.
I, I want I want to jump in on a personal note on five there, because I'll dump my purse out for anybody and show you what I got. I didn't choose to come here and have a biological father that has tried to kill me on multiple occasions. The first time being when I was 3 months old and colicky, and he picked my infant body up. This man is 6'2", threw me against the wall like a sticky dart, and I got stuck between a set of bunk beds. And the only reason I'm still alive is my sister ran to my mother going, Donald Duck, because she was only 2. She was trying to say Donald stuck, and I was hanging by my head in between the bunk beds, and my older sister saved me. Now tell me I chose that.
This goes back to number one, the number one way these creatures tie up the humans. Love your enemies. They have to justify this fuckery. And you know how they justify it? You chose to come here. Show me the contract. I don't have a contract. Then shut the fuck up. I did not choose to come here. We are in a matrix where souls get recycled. And everything in this wicked beast system is designed to harvest you and to keep you coming back. And the great revelation, the real great awakening is this. The real great awakening is this. I'm going to tell people this. The real great awakening is this. You got to become light. You got to become light spiritually. What do you mean? You know, Jesus ascended, right? You think he ascended heavy? No, he ascended light. And that is why they don't want the people breaking free from the cobwebs of the spiders of the archons. That is why they want you back into an archontic covenant with the very person who rolled out the death shots. That is an archonic covenant. That is why they're finding cobwebs coming out of people's bodies, people. I'm not the one finding the cobwebs. They're telling you to go and worship the person who rolled out cobwebs. They're pulling cobwebs out of people's bodies. They're telling you to love the vampire. One rolled out the death shots, the other one forced you to take it. A bird cannot fly north if one wing is facing south. A bird cannot move east if one of its wings is facing west. Both wings have to face the same direction. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? Both wings of the same fucking bird are moving in the same direction, straight into the web of the spider. It is your job not to end up like me, cob-webbed and battling these entities every day. Dawn did not choose, did not sign a contract. And this is how they justify this fuck shit. Excuse my language. But this one really pisses me off. You chose to come here. Show me the fucking contract. No, I didn't choose to come here. This place is a fucking trap. It's trapped and has been put under a recycled grid because they broke up the ancient grid that allowed for the souls to ascend, and then they put in this artificial grid that is recycling souls. And now the spider that's been doing this, that's been hiding for thousands of years, you know what they did? They created a needle with a special cocktail for that spider to now be in your blood. That is the apocalypsos. The apocalypsos is the unveiling. I'm not yelling at you guys. I'm passionate. The apocalypsos is the unveiling. You know what's unveiled? The spider that's been doing this for millions of years when they brought that entity here, who's been casting this web of recycling souls and then feeding you to the eat my flesh and drink my blood. The spider gets payment from the vampires and the werewolves. And the werewolves and the vampires repay the spider by bringing them your carcass. That spider has been hiding behind the scenes for a long time. And the spider's ready to come above ground. You know what they did? They took the cobwebs and called it a shot. And now they put the spider in you. People, wake up. There is no truther community. I'm not a truther, I'm a revelator. I walk in the apocalypsos, which is the unveiling of things that are hidden. I don't tell the truth. I reveal deep mysteries. That is what I do. I advise people, begin to clean up your insides. Clean up your insides so no one is telling you, you came here, you had a contract to come here. You did not have a contract to come here. The system that the spider created was a web to keep you trapped, coming back to be food. And this is the first time in history where the whole earth is waking up, which is the apocalypsos, for people to do what? Ascend the fuck out of here. And what did they do? They took over the truther community, they took over the Great Awakening, and they steered the people back into the two beasts that tried to kill them, religion and politics. Go ahead.
I actually got two things on that. First of all, I'm just going to say, like you're a revelator, I'm a dude that woke up about a year ago and realized I didn't know shit and I needed to talk to everybody who did. That's the entire reason I'm having my awakening. That's the reason I started my show. That's the reason I asked everybody that has a valid source of information to talk to me, because I want to know everything that's going on, because this is insane.
It is.
Now, what I wanted to ask you about was, there's a lot of people in the spiritual community that have the idea, like, you go way, way back before the overlay was ever here, that we were here first, and this has been hijacked. Do you believe that, and do you think there's a way to get out of it?
That's a great question. Okay, so what was revealed to me, I'm going to tell you what was revealed to me. Like I told you, I'm a revelator. Okay, it doesn't mean I'm a truther. It doesn't mean I have all the answers. All I know is I've been given the task of revealing what is hidden in the stone. So one of the things I learned, I'm learning from the sides of mountains and from the rocks and the stones. Jesus said the rocks will cry out, and that has been proven true. The rocks are crying out because on the sides of mountains is the true history. Let me say that again. On the sides of the mountains is the true history. And there's a reason why they wrote on the sides of mountains. You know why? Number one, they were bigger. They were bigger. And something didn't like humans being bigger. Something didn't like humans being smarter. Something didn't like humans with the power of the God. Okay? I'm answering your question, right? Rephrase the question again, and I'm going to go deeper into the question. You're muted, muted.
Were we the first ones here and the overlay was added later?
Okay, so what I'm learning is this. There was a human race before this Adamic race. The Adamic race was created to be slaves. I tell people I do not come from Adam. My genetics is older than Adam. Adam is a child compared to my genetics. And I tell people, go look at the DNA and see how old the DNA, and you need to break the 6,000 year cycle. The humans before Adam, were bigger. They were 20 feet and above. They were created, and this is what I keep seeing carved into the mountains all across the desert Southwest. They were not created by a male God, they were created by a male and female. Whether you believe they were gods or not, I don't care, but it were created by both male and female, and they came through the vagina of a woman. Not the rib of a man, but the vagina of a woman. You know, the way it's done today, right? Okay. So what I'm saying is that the human race was created equal. There was no white superiority, black superiority, all of that is fuckery and bullshit. There was no chosen race, special race, master race. All of that is alien bullshit that was brought here. There was a human race that was created by male and female. However, this human race was bigger. They were smarter. They were stronger. Something didn't like that. Now, what was here from what I see carved into the mountains was the human race was here, as well as a very intelligent ape race. There were also other guardian races that were here. I saw carved into the mountain an ant race. I'm not yelling at people. I just get really excited about this, right? There was also an ant race, which the Hopi Indians said saved them from the flood by taking them deep underground. There were guardian races here to teach the human race. One of the guardian races was the primate race, which is where they get Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes was real. There was an intelligent primate race here that carved into the mountains in the desert Southwest. There was also the serpent races, which is carved into the mountains in the desert Southwest. There is also a reptilian slash, what do you call it when they're both fish, but when they're reptile and fish as well, like amphibious, a type of like amphibious type race, right? Which was also our guardian over the human race. Humans had guardians over them to help them develop. Something happened where it was no longer a pure genetic strand that was human, and they started mixing, kind of like what they're doing today, right? So they started mixing or genetic engineering, cross-species engineering. So what I'm finding, there was a pure strand of the human race that was smarter, stronger, faster. Something came here, and there were guardian races over them. The guardian races, one was a reptilian race, a seafaring race, that was the normal. The other one was an ant race. The other one was a feline race, the cat races. The other one was a bird race. These are the 5 races that I saw that were guardians over the human. This is why I can never be insulted by racists calling me an ape, because I know there was an intelligent race, and the Hindus called them Hanuman. There was an intelligent primate race as a guardian race over the human beings to watch the evolution of the humans. Something occurred where those guardian races, the feline, the bird race, the reptilian race, the fish, the aquatic races, the fish races, and then there's another one, the primate. These are the 5 guardian races that were put to steer humankind in its evolution. Something occurred where these races, who were the guardians, the overseers, to make sure that humankind evolve according to their time, to steer them in the right direction, where they began to genetically engineer, meaning cross-species engineering. So instead of the intelligent primate race guiding the human beings with knowledge, they began to mix with the human beings. So instead of the intelligent feline races guiding the human race with knowledge, they began to genetically engineer and alter the human genome. Instead of the intelligent reptilian races guiding the human race, they began to mix with the human race and genetically engineering. And so what ended up happening is we ended up with a situation with chimeras. And then we ended up with a situation where the planet became lawless. That is what I'm seeing carved into the mountains of the desert Southwest. So the humans were here as a pure genetic strand with guardian races here as well. Something occurred, and I think what occurred is that the mind got tampered with. We know that the mind got tampered with because the Elohim came here. And the Elohim said, let us confuse them. Let us go down and divide them. When you divide people, you cause confusion. I believe it was the Elohim who came here and began to tamper with the DNA and cause confusion. And what ended up happening is, instead of the primates mating with the primates lusted after human women. Instead of the human men mating with human women, they lusted after the lion races. They lusted after the reptilian races. They lusted. That is what happened when the Elohim came here and said, let us divide them. I think the Elohim is the ones behind this confusion. And then that justified them in wiping out the human race, because they said, oh my God, look, oh my God, look at what they're doing. They're inter-race mating, producing horrific abominations. Wipe them out. Hey, you caused it. You said, let us go down and confuse them. What do you think happens when you confuse people? Men start having sex with dogs.
You actually hit on something that leads back to vampires again. We have a part in our brain. Anybody can look it up. It's called the reptilian brain. And that's where most energy vampires in your day-to-day that you'll run into reside. They're just in that cold, calculating predator or prey drive at all times. They're just in that reptilian state of mind.
Yeah. And also we have 98% of our DNA matches that are primates. That is not evolution, that's engineering. And I believe that engineering happened when the Elohim came down and said, let us divide. You people, have you really took a look at the word divide, what it means when it says, let us divide? They said, oh, look, the people are one. They are one language. They have one language, one culture. That means there was no black, there was no white, there was no male, there was no female. There was no Arabic Muslims over here and Christian whites over here and Africans, traditionalists down here and Native American, whatever, and Japanese Shinto over there. The Elohim clearly said, look, the people are one. They speak one language. They have one mind. Let us go down and divide. Look carefully at that word divide. When you divide people's language, you're not dividing their language, you're dividing their brains. What happens when you confuse people's brains? People begin to do dumb shit, like, hey, all of a sudden, hey, that monkey over there looks really sexy. Oh, hold on, but you're a human. You shouldn't be finding monkeys sexy. That's what happens when you tamper with people's minds. I think it's the Elohim who did it. And then after they did that, after they went and tampered with the people's brains, when they said, let us divide their tongues, okay, you know what happens? Then they say, oh, look, cannibals. Oh, look, they're, oh my God. The men are having sex with animals. The animals are having sex with plants. The plants are having sex with fish. Oh, look, wipe it all out. You caused it. You, the Elohim, caused it. You divided them because you were jealous of their progress. You're to blame. And you're still here doing the same fuck shit. Why are you running Black people into Europe? Do Black people belong in cold climates? No, Black people belong in tropical climates. Why are you running the Europeans into Latin America and into Africa? Why did you, the Elohim, cause the Europeans 400 years ago to go into Canada, going to America, go to Central and South America, going to Australia and New Zealand, and wipe out the indigenous? You, the Elohim, caused it. Why are you, the Elohim, in the Middle East, bombing the people in the Middle East, running them off their lands and running them into Europe? Why are you raping them in the Mediterranean and then dropping them in Europe to rape the European women? You, the Elohim, caused it. That is what you said. You said, let us go down and divide them. That is what you did. You, the Elohim, you did it. You and your children. You and your goddamn children who run the fucking Sanhedrin are the reason why this planet is a mess. And you do it for one reason. When you're done with the human race, you cause the division. And then you sit back and say, oh, look, the human race is too violent. Wipe them out. You, the fucking Elohim, do it. And you've been doing this shit for thousands of years. Africans belong in Africa, not your corporations. Africans belong in Africa. Europeans belong in Europe. Why are you, the Elohim, running the Blacks into Europe and running the Europeans into Africa? You are the fucking ones causing the goddamn chaos. You and your goddamn children. But the people are too stupid to see it's you. Because the people worship you, the troublemakers. And that's the way this system is designed. The people who love humanity are hated. The people who hate humanity are loved. The people who use humanity are worshipped as saviors. The people who don't use humanities are called users. That's the way this wicked beast system operates. And that's why they tell you, you chose to come here. Show me the fucking contract.
You actually just touched on, you actually put a puzzle piece in play for me that I've been working on, because I've always had problems with reading and writing. Like, I can read, I taught myself to read reading Stephen King, right? Like, I can read, I'm articulate, that's great. But something I've always thought, especially recently, is like the reason we've become detached spiritually and from our clairaudience, clairvoyance, clair, all of our abilities, is exactly what you're saying. The division of language, the division of sexes, the division, they make us slow down our brains so much and become complacent that we lose these abilities, we lose these defense mechanisms, we lose what we're supposed to be able to do.
You brought up a powerful point, right? About how these motherfuckers who are not gods, how they really messed this up, right? So in order for a person to be truly psychic, spiritual, and in touch, they have to project the spirituality out, right? And what they tell you to do is read, 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 read. Do you know that the word for book means to imprison? When the police arrest you, they book you. They book you. That means your psychic abilities is going into a book. Why do you think that this Elohim went across the planet taking God, if you want to use that term, taking God from under your feet, from in the trees, from in the animals, and putting God in a book? Let me show you something, humans. If God was under your feet, and every person on the land believed that God was under their feet, so when they walk, people would be careful not even to kill an ant. If the people believed that God was in a tree, the people would be careful not to cut down all the trees. If people believe that God was in the air, they'd be careful not to pollute the air. If people believe that God lived in the waters, the people would be careful not to pollute the waters. So they took God out of the land and put God in a book. Once God went into a book, the people became enslaved. You know why? Because God is no longer under your feet, so I could do what the fuck I want with the land. I could feed you bullshit and tell you it's food. I could give you GMO because God is not in the land anymore. God is in a book. I could poison your water and give you fucked up water to drink because God is not in the water anymore. God is in a book. Okay. I can rob, cheat, steal, kill, plunder, mine the land, poison the water, kill everything inside because God is in a book. You see the difference when God is under your feet, when God is in the water you drink, when God is in the food you eat, the air you breathe. You're very careful not to harm it because you're harming God. But when God is in a book, when God is separated from the land you live on, people become controlled, enslaved. That is how you get people. Let me say this. That is how you get people to buy a house, pay 30 years for a house, and after they pay the house, they're still paying tax on the land. What? Hold on. You bought the house and you spent 30 years paying for the house. Why are you still getting taxed? You know why? Because God is not in the land. The person who wrote the book is the one who has the land. You get it? People, bring God back to the land like the ancients did. You'll see people's behavior change. Bring God back into the waters. You'll see the rivers get clean. Bring God back into the air. You see people will be careful not to pollute the air. Huh? Think about it. And you see, that's why they gave you a book. And that's why they want your head in a book. Because as long as your head is in a book, now today they got rid of the book and they gave you the phone. Because as long as your head is in the book, you can't see God all around you. But you know who's all around you? You know who now controls the land now that they took God out of the land? When man takes God out of the land and put God into a book, you know who now owns the land? The government. And the government will tax you for something that God will never tax you for. God will never tax you for putting your foot on the land, but the government will. That is why they took God out of the land and put God in a book. To book means to imprison.
And just on a side note, if anybody wants to see that what she's saying is true, go on YouTube and look up "babies avoid grass" because babies don't know that God is in a book, right? Babies still feel that God or source or whatever you want to call it comes from the planet. Babies will avoid sitting on grass like it's the goddamn plague. Okay, I giggled when I saw the video and I was like, oh, once it actually clicked in. Go look it up on YouTube. It's a real thing. Babies will avoid touching grass unless you pretty much make them.
That's so true. And a baby will avoid killing anything smaller than it. You know why? And then you know what? You know, religion has an answer for that. They say babies are born in sin. Have you ever seen a sinful baby? Have you ever seen an evil baby? I have
No.
never, since I've been alive, seen an evil baby. You see, these are the parts of the system that's vampiric. Let me tell you something, people. There's a reason why these vampires went around the planet mass murdering the indigenous. You know why? Because the indigenous always said, hey, God is in the water. You can't go around polluting the water. God is under your feet. You can't go around killing. If God is under your feet, you're not going to kill your neighbor. But if God is in a book, hey, God ain't looking, he's in a book. To book means to imprison. I could kill my neighbor because trapped in a book. God is trapped between the cover of the book and the bookend. Put God back in the land. You're really religious? You're really spiritual? Put God under your feet. Put God back in the waters. You can't do that. You know why? Because when you remove God, The government took the land. You know that left wing of the bird and the right wing of the bird? Yeah, that bird took the land when they took God out of the land and put God into a book. You've been booked.
That's just I get it now, and I've never put that together.
Don't be insulted for not reading their books. Okay, your imagination, your eye imagination is supposed to project out. I'm not saying don't read. I'm saying don't read their propaganda. I'm not saying don't read. I'm saying don't read their propaganda. Your imagination, your third eye is supposed to go out. Okay, they want your third eye going down into a book. You've been booked. That is why you people can't break away from the matrix because you've been booked. You've been booked. You've been booked, 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 booked. God does not live in a temple. We have the Muslims and the Christians. They're setting the Muslims and the Christians up to exterminate each other because they took God from the land and put God in a book. And none of them can see, hey, listen, whoa, 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 whoa. God is not in this. God does not go around exterminating people, all to put a temple, to build a are you crazy? God does not live in stone buildings. God lives on the ground under your feet, in the tree, in the animal, in the rivers, in the seas, in the clouds, in the air, in space, not in a fucking building. So if you have to go exterminate your neighbor in order to build a building, your building, God is not in that building. Your God is the devil. You've been booked. That's what happens after you're arrested. You get booked.
Yeah.
And that's what they did with religion. They booked you.
That's just it makes so much sense. I don't even know what to say. Like,
Now do you get the matrix?
yeah,
Now you
it's
get how they recycle you?
yeah,
Books. All they got to do, honey, is just bring out a second edition. When they shrink you, the next one, they don't even want to shrink you. They just want to upload you into a computer.
yeah.
Okay? So the next edition of the book, after they've booked you, you're going to be a tablet. You've been booked. That's what's holding the matrix together. They took God and they booked God. And then they booked you with God because they took God from under your feet. God belongs in the rivers, the lakes, the streams, the trees, the animals, the birds, the bees. God belongs in space. If God ain't all around you and God is in a book, honey, you ain't got God, you've been booked. That is what they do after they arrest you. They book you. And you know what they do after they book you? They lay charges on you. You don't believe me? You've been booked? When you become religious, the first thing they do is they lay your charges on you. They tell you you're a sinner. You've been booked.
And then repent and ask you for money. I see it.
And what do? You go to the judge and you plead your case.
Yeah,
Okay. And after you've been booked by the Lord, because you've been booked, you got to go and plead for forgiveness. And then forgiveness requires you giving 10%. You've been booked. You don't have God. You've been booked. You've been booked in the courts of heaven, according to their book, and you've been booked on the courts of the earth. Now, what's the solution? Take God out of the book and put God under your feet. Then you will see how you will treat all life around you. Because surely you will not poop on your front lawn. You follow what I'm saying?
yeah.
If God is under your feet, you're not going to go take a dump on your front lawn. You following what I'm saying? If God is under your feet and under your feet is water, you're going to make sure that water is clean. You following? That's what I'm trying to tell you. So the whole system is designed with a book. And you know what's in a book? A script. And that's why they call the book the scriptures. The script, sure, wait, hold on. If it's a script, it means it gets played over and over again. Yeah, that's what's called a matrix. And this is why you recycled coming here. And this is why these people say it's a damn contract you sign. I'm showing you how to get the fuck out of here. You got to unbook yourself, honey. I say put God back in the land. And when God is in his rightful place, you become free. That's it.
I agree with that.
These mountains will teach you things, will teach you mysteries. When you get close to these mountains, and I'm telling everybody and their mother, come with me to these mountains. These mountains will change your brain in a way that is, I mean, they taught me, you've been booked. Okay, and this is why they call the book scriptures. A script is something that gets played over and over again. When something gets played over and over again, it's called a matrix. And this is the cycle of death and resurrection over and over again. It is time to ascend the fuck out of here, people. And leave these booked people to come back being food for these archons.
Completely off topic because I can see her just itching for me to say this. If you're ever down for it, we live 45 minutes from Drumheller, Alberta, and about an hour and a half from the Rockies. So if you ever want to come check out some of the stuff here, like Drumheller is the land before time that got cut down. It used to be a tropical paradise. Yeah.
Kind of like the desert Southwest, that was a tropical paradise, and all the rocks speak of elephants out here. They speak of baboons out here. All the rocks speak of Eden being out here. And it's true because 500 million years ago, it was a sea.
Okay. Drumheller.
Yeah.
Drumheller is the dinosaur capital of the world.
The reason why I believe it is because we've been lied to. We've been lied to because we've been booked. People, we've been booked. They laid charges on us. They told us our charges are sins. We have to plead, like in a court, you plead your case. We plead for forgiveness. And then the court, you pay a fine. And then to the religious, after you get booked and they lay the charges on you, you pay the fine of 10% tithes and offerings. You've been booked. We've been booked. We've all been booked. Now you got to unbook yourself and put God back in the earth. Every human being must put God back in the ground. Get it?
I do.
Yeah. Put God back in the food. I don't want to hear a sermon. Put God back in the food. Put God back in the water. Put God back in the weather. You want to be religious? I have a word for you religious people. Put God back under your feet. Put God back in the waters. God back in the air. Put God where God belongs, back in the universe. You'll see people change. But you don't want that. You know why? Because if God is in the land, you don't have control.
Which kind of brings us to number 6, if we want to keep going on God. Do you want to read that?
Yeah. A naughty person, a wicked man, walking with a proud mouth, he winketh with the eye. That's the hand signal, because they speak in symbols, right? And signals, right? He speaketh with his feet and he teaches with his fingers. So these are the symbols they use, I don't know some of the other, I don't know these crazy, these symbols, but they.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not making fun of their symbols, but whatever, right? So these are the symbols. But the whole point is this: the matrix is controlled by symbols. The symbols are part of the book. The books are where you are booked. Once you're booked, they lay the claims against you, you plead your case, and you got to pay a fine. When you die going out, they say you got to pay a death tax. How the fuck am I paying a tax and I'm dead? Because you've been booked.
All the way back to paying the ferryman. Like it
you've been booked.
Yeah.
You come in, you got to pay a fine. And then you leave, you got to pay a fine. And this is what gives these people the impetus when they say, oh, no, you signed a contract. Because when you come in, you're contracted. And when you go out, you're contracted. And it's all a damn script over and over again. And it's called the Matrix. Now, here's the problem. For the first time in history, we see that the spider no longer wants to hide behind the curtain. The spider's like, I want to be in your genetics. The archons no longer want to hide behind the curtain. The archon want to be in the needles, and they want the needles in your bloodstream. So people, you're injecting the archons into your bloodstream. The archons historically were called the ancient spiders. You are injecting the archons into your bloodstream. So not only are you booked, but you're cobwebbed, meaning you're guaranteed to be recycled. But there's a way. Purify yourself, people. Unbook yourself and let your third eye project out, not down in a book. Now they don't even want you in a book, they want you in a phone, right? But your third eye is supposed to project out, not down into a book. Out. Okay? Out. Right? So unbook yourself and let your third eye project out. Yeah. So anyone who's deceitful, and the way you know how people are deceitful is they don't keep their word. It's that simple. They say something and do something else. Okay? That is how you know people are deceitful. If people are deceitful, that's just going to trap you back into a matrix. You need people who are honest. Okay? You need people who say, I'm going to walk up the hill and then walk up the hill. I'm going to walk down the hill and they walk down the hill. I'm going to do this and they do it. You don't need someone who's going to tell you, when I get elected, I'm going to do this, 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 and then they get elected and all they give you is 5G towers and needles. Okay? You don't need people who say, when I get elected, I'm going to fix the economy, and the only thing they fix are the bankers. And they leave your ass broke, busted, disgusted. And then you zombies fight over which wing of the bird loves you the most. Let me tell you something. Have you ever heard the government make a decision by saying, we love our citizens? We are making this decision because we love our citizens. That's not how governments make decisions. Government makes decisions based on numbers.
Yeah.
When you want to understand government decision, understand its numbers, meaning you don't have a personality. They don't give a shit about your family. They don't give a shit about your children. It is numbers. You must understand this is how governments make decisions. So you cannot fight over the left wing of the bird or the right wing of the bird when both of them make decisions based upon numbers. You are not a number. Think about it.
Yeah.
I got to wrap it up.
Yeah. Yeah, because we've been going like over 2 hours, but if you want, do you want to get into your last three? Because I also want to give, I've actually found some physiological warning signs if people are in the presence of an energy vampire in their day to day. So
number 7 is, I noticed these people, they come in a fake form of love, but the love doesn't hold. So that's number 7. They give you the kiss of death. When they come with full of love. They call it love bombing, but the love does not hold. But when the love dies, believe it. And let me say this again. When the love dies, believe it. Because I found myself loving the love, which was love bombing, even though their love has turned to hate. Usually the vampires cannot hold love energy for long. It fades. Okay, so that's how you know you're in the presence of a vampire, right? Okay, number 8, this is the biggest one. This is the biggest one. They want to do the thinking for you. I tell the people around me, hey, listen, I'm not doing the thinking for you. Use the brain. I said, the only thing I do, I'm a revelator. I am here to reveal mysteries to you. Your job is for your brain to see what your brain sees. I will not tell you you did not see that. If I can't see it, I will tell you you did see it, but it is for your brain to see, not necessarily for me. You're following? So one of the things they do is they don't like the sheep critically thinking. If someone is not spurring you to think for yourself, meaning they are telling you the actions to take, like choose this candidate. No. No person who is a revelator. I am not a truther. No person who is revealing to you the deep and mysterious things that were unknown before the foundation of this Draco, this 6,000 year takeover that's coming to an end. No one who is truly a revelator is going to tell you the path to take. What they will do is they will reveal to you the mystery and have you make your decision yourself. So, number 8 is they do not like people critically thinking. They like to make decisions for you. Vote for this one. Let me tell you something, people. I'm going to say this again. A bird does not fly with one wing. You can't clap with one hand. Have you ever seen a one handed person clap? Have you ever seen a bird fly with one wing? Okay, so if you're trying to tell me this wing of the bird is better than that wing of the bird, show me a bird that can fly north on one wing. It's not happening. Both left and right are moving the bird in the direction that the head of the bird wants to go to. Therefore, your job is to be critical. Anyone telling you choose this side over that side is your enemy. No, you make the decision yourself. But here's the problem. They have so destroyed the human's ability to critically think. Most people are handicapped when it comes to making decisions. So you got to learn to make decisions, even if you make the decision as a 2-year-old. You make the decision, you fall on your face, you get back up and you start trying. You got to learn to start making decisions for yourself. Because if you don't make the decision for yourself, hey, that bird will carry you in the direction where you don't want to go. Right? So, number 9, this is the most important. And this is how you know you're dealing with these entities. They always come in the name of light. Okay? There is a reason they call electricity an El, because electricity is considered a god. The word for God in the Middle East is called El. Thus, we get the word electricity, because electricity is the artificial light. Do you want to know the other name for the artificial light? Lucifer. So when they come to you and they say, I'm a light worker, you ask them, are you talking about the light which was here from the foundation of the universe? Or are you talking about the L? Anything that starts with L is artificial. Let me say that again. Anything that starts with L is artificial. Electricity did not come first. The sun came first. This is why they associated Jesus with the Son of God, that is the Helios, the sun. Lucifer contested that because Lucifer was an artificial light. Another word for artificial light is electricity. El meaning God. So when they tell you they're a light worker, they're telling you they're coming in the name of a false God. That is why that scripture says, Satan himself, his followers come to you as angels of light. Which light? The light before the foundation, which is the sun, or an El, the artificial light, Lucifer. Huh? Think about it. Number 10. Let me tell you something. Number 10 is these people behind closed doors do rituals. I don't practice rituals. I hate conjuring. I hate this shit. Okay? When you are truly, walking with the all powerful one, you don't need to do any of that L stuff, because the L are artificial. Let me say that again. The L's are not real gods, they're artificial. This is where you get electricity. Electricity is artificial light. Thus, L, mimicking the real light, the sun. When you are truly of the sun, you don't need to do these things. You're from the root. You're from the root form of light. So when they say they're light workers, you have to ask them, which light? Which light? Which light are you from? If you're not asking them which light are you from, more than likely you're dealing with an artificial light. That is an El, like your Elohim, the fake gods.
That is very well written and very well said. And the entire reason I wanted to share it I know we've been kind of going back and forth between micro and macro. On the micro, one of the other ones that I came across is the martyr, the quintessential victim. They will drain you at such an extent because they're the person who always has a problem, and it works with government too. Your government can make you feel this way about, oh, this is always horrible. There's always a problem, and they're not looking for a solution. They're just there to drain you.
And it's about time the human race stop being food.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
humans, you have to stop being food. You have to stop being eaten, and you have to stop being drunk by these entities. And one of the ways you have to stop, you have to understand there really is a spider behind all of this. The spider no longer wants to be behind the curtains pulling the strings. The spider wants to be in your bloodstream. Let me say this again. The spider wants to be in your bloodstream. So if you know that the spider that's hiding behind the curtain, the master deceiver, who works with those who eat flesh and drink blood, the unholy trinity, eat flesh, drink blood, and get cobwebbed while doing it. That is the root of the matrix. The spider spins the web for the cannibals to eat and the vampires to drink. You and I, right? We know not that the spider does not want to stay behind closed doors. The spider wants to be in your bloodstream. So if I'm telling you what the spider wants to do, what should you be doing? Should you be letting any and anything into your bloodstream?
no.
Okay, think about it. So the second thing we need to do is we know the spider now wants to be in the bloodstream. Why does the spider now want to be in the bloodstream? We know it's an unholy trinity. The spider at the top, in order for those who eat flesh and drink blood to eat flesh and drink blood. So we know there's two parts of the trinity that's left. Now, if you know they want to consume you and they want to drink you, what should you do? You have to look for all the areas of your life where you're food. And you have to stop being food for these entities. And in order to do that, you have to do the spiritual purification with the physical detox, but you also have to start taking baby steps to do what? Break free from them making decisions for you.
Yeah.
This is why they structured the whole planet and they structured God as a father. This is why they created Psalm 23 and they called you a sheep and you thought it was a great thing. Sheep are stupid animals. They called you a sheep and you thought it was a great thing. No, you know how shepherd guides sheep? By poking them with a crook, okay? A staff and a crook, poke, and then hooking them by the neck because sheep are stupid. You have to unlearn and begin to critically think. And you have to be willing to make the dumb mistakes. Never be afraid to make stupid mistakes if you're in the process of learning. Just make sure you try not to make mistakes that wipe you out, but make mistakes in order to repair the part of the brain that they are. Let me tell you what this great reset is about. The one main part of the reset, which is the rise of Seth, is Seth does not want a race of thinkers. Seth has to wipe out the part of the brain where humans use critical thought. This is why every time you run here and you run there, they come and they try to steer you back. Because the one thing the Sethians don't want is a group of people who can think for themselves. And this is why they want to turn people into robots. They experimented with turning me into robots and I give them hell. Half my body is technology and I give them hell. All while being burned and tortured every day, and I give them hell. because I will not submit to Sethian. So you have, while you are free, while you are yet free, you have to stop seeing yourself as a damn sheep. The Lord is not your shepherd because you are not stupid sheep. Learn to think critically. Now, there are things that you don't know, and you have to rely on supernatural abilities of God, the omniscience of God. I get that. But you have to start making critical thinking decisions. And one of the main decisions you need to make is this: a bird uses two wings to fly in the same damn direction. If you haven't figured that out, so sorry, you will be cobwebbed and brought right back here to be food. I hope this helped.
I think it will. And just before we go, I've got like five here, and I can do them really quick. It's just signs that you're being drained by somebody in your life, and this is physiological: exhaustion and depletion, a tugging in your solar or pulling in your solar plexus, Occip- occipital headache, which is right back here, uh, nightmares, and a constant state of feeling drained. Yes, if you're getting occipital headaches, that's another sign. The constantly feeling drained or a feeling of dread. These are all symptoms that you are being fed off of. So, I want to
Always
thank,
exhausted. Sorry, always exhausted. If
yeah,
you eat and sleep, if you go to sleep and you wake up and you feel like you need to sleep, you're being consumed in your sleep. By
yeah,
the way, the smart meters are vampire technology. So the vampires, they're coming out because remember, we're in the revelation. The revelation is not four horsemen of the apocalypse and all this nonsense. No, the revelation is the creatures hiding behind the curtains are like, fuck this shit. I'm taking off this human suits and I want to eat and drink the humans and screw all of y'all. Okay? So the smart meters are vampire cannibal technology. They don't want to chase you down the street anymore. They want to eat you while you're sleeping in the home, and they created technology to do it. That's the smart meters on your house. They
yep,
don't want, the spider does not want to pull the strings behind the curtain anymore. The spider wants to consume your brain right here from this. They're building out the cobweb around you, and this is why they're telling you Elon Musk is a savior, because Elon Musk is helping them to build the cobwebs. They're telling you he's a savior. No, he's building the satellite cobwebs all around you where you will not escape. Wake up. The smart grids are vampire cannibal technology. This is why when you go to sleep, you wake up exhausted.
yep,
Constant exhaustion is not because, and let me tell you something, if you're constantly exhausted, you need to start taking colloidal silver. Vampires don't like silver. I haven't quite figured out how to stop the cannibals. One of the ways I stopped the cannibals was eating meat because the meat acted as a buffer. The meat would buffer the cannibals and block the cannibals from draining the energy through your flesh, and it would start draining the energy through the meat. Okay, so one of the things, this is why the reset, which is the rise of Set a second time, don't want you eating meat because they know when the cannibals need to feed, the cannibals feed on flesh. They don't want the meat in your stomach because they know that what's going to happen is that the cannibals are going to be drawing the energy from the meat digesting in your stomach. They want you vegan because they want the energy pulled through the flesh, your flesh. You need to understand that the cannibalistic vampiric system is being built around us because they don't want to hunt anymore. They want to eat from your brain, that's the spider, and your blood, that's the vampire, and your flesh, that's the cannibal. And that is why they redesigned religion telling you, eat my flesh and drink my blood. Jesus never said that. Okay? So, guys, you really need to wake up to the unholy trinity. You really need to wake up to the unholy trinity. And you really need to wake up that a bird cannot fly in any direction, north, south, east, and west, if one of its wings is facing the other way, which means the bird needs two wings to travel in one direction, meaning both wings of the bird is taking you to your demise. Wake the fuck up. And choose each other. Choose each other, meaning try to work things out with your neighbor. Love your neighbor and withdraw from loving these system generated entities. Right? Learn to live in peace with your neighbor. Learn to love your neighbor. Your neighbor will be the one to help you, not the feds. You see those people in Tennessee and North Carolina? It's their neighbors that are helping them. And this is what I've been telling people. Stop listening to these fucking truthers tell you, hate this one and hate this one and hate this one. And I'm the one telling you, love your neighbor, because it will be a neighbor who will be the one to either kill you or make you live. Learn to love your neighbor.
I absolutely have loved this, Rainetta. And I think the only thing I could add to what you just said is to reiterate what you said earlier is go outside, connect to source, touch the ground, put the source energy back in our reality and out of the book and get in tune and in touch with it, because it's the only way to truly defend from it.
That's what the land has been teaching me here. The land has been teaching me that they took God out of the land, put God in a book, and then we end up in slavery. And then the corporations ended up with the land, we ended up with taxes, and God was bound in between pages of a book. And now they're waging a holy war to put God in a building. Fuck that shit. God don't belong in no goddamn building. God belongs under your foot, in the water, in the air, in the universe that it created.
I love
How the
it.
hell you know God? How the hell you know God and you don't even understand the seasons?
That's a whole other stuff.
I mean, you're fighting over God and you don't even know how to grow your own goddamn food. You don't know God, because God is now in a book and not under your foot. Put God back where God belongs, under your foot, and you will see how people will treat their neighbor. If God is under your foot, you be careful not to kill the ants. If God is under your foot, you be careful not to kill your neighbor. But if God is not under your foot, the government is under your foot, and the government will have you by the neck. And that's where we are. You've been booked, I've been booked. Let's put God back where God rightfully belongs, all around us, and watch humanity change. Love you guys. Love each other. Your neighbor will be the one to save you, or your neighbor will be the one to take you to the concentration camps. Stop listening to these people tell you hate your neighbor for their skin color, their race, their this, their that. Your neighbor will be the one to either save you or sell you down the drain. Learn to love your neighbor. Peace out. Love you guys. Tell your queen I said hi. People, love each other. Love each other. It is the only thing that will make you sink or swim. And put your God, your source, your power, the one who gave you life, back into the earth. And watch the one who gave you life come back into your body. Okay? Peace out. Tell your queen I said hi. Bye.